In many regards, marketing has uh, danced this line between, and this is just my perspective, between manipulating people to do things and helping them see um, a social good as well. So we had the ad campaigns and things like that that had gone out, Schoolhouse Rock and other, or these kinds of things that there's a social good, there's a social benefit. And one of the areas that I've been looking at right now is cybersecurity. And here we have a $2 trillion threat that is growing to $6 trillion by the generals of the U.S. Cyber Command and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all the cybersecurity experts saying this is a massive problem and we're at war and this is a war that we're losing. And the problem is that the victims and the soldiers both are you and me and our kids and our parents and our families and friends. They're going after soft targets. They're going after school systems and hospitals and utilities. And the solution, unfortunately, is that we all have to become aware of the threats that we're under when we're connecting to devices and things like that. From a marketing standpoint, how do you get people to change their behavior about something like cyber hygiene?
Well, so I think it's a complicated challenge for sure. I guess as I think about that, I go, one of my professors at Harvard Business School, Michael Beers, had this sort of algebraic conceptualization of change, what it takes to create change. And his formula was change equals V times, and I might have the actual words wrong, but V times S times D. And V stood for vision. So change requires a vision. It requires a strategy for achieving that vision. And D stands for dissatisfaction. And the reason there are multiplication signs in his concept is because if there is not universal dissatisfaction, there will be no change. If D is zero, no matter how great the vision, no matter how great the strategy, there will be no change. And as a leader, I have used that my whole career when being faced with either turnarounds or transformations. The first thing I've done as a leader in the first 90 days everywhere I've been is to try to establish universal dissatisfaction with the status quo. And that is the first place you have to begin, because if not everybody is just instantly shares the same concern or fear that more learned, more enlightened people like yourself legitimately have, but folks just don't slow down enough to think about something like that in a way where it is menacing to them. And they've got in this little compartmentalized place. Oh yeah, that's something that happens to Citibank, or that's something that happens to the government or whatever. But and yeah, what's the worst that could happen? I guess I lose my identity. That would suck. But I don't. So I think that what you have is a society that has very highly variable levels of dissatisfaction with the problem, number one. And so again, managerially, when I'm faced with that, I take my people through a process of helping them discover why status quo sucks, why doing nothing, by doing to tomorrow what we did yesterday is not good, not healthy. But until you bring that into living color for people and get them to be dissatisfied, they are not going to go to the next step to say, well, what do you have in mind then? What is your vision then? Now I care. So what is the vision? How do I do it? So that on something like cybersecurity, I think establishing a more palpable, concrete form of what the threat represents to people would be where I would start. I would start there. What can I do to dramatize this, to make it appeal to the self-interests of the common person, the everyman out there? What can I do to create a sense of alarm among the everyman? Because in the absence of that, I was helping a firm, a medical cannabis company, and I was explaining to the CEO that until, and he was working on some policy change, trying to get some policy change at the government level and among legislators and so forth. And my assertion to him was, you cannot get policy change until you have it in the hearts of people. It has to be, when you look at all the policy change over the course of time, none of it was ever successfully invoked without the will of people, without people being able to connect to what it meant to them, right? And so the duty, I think, in this case of a marketer would be to focus on articulating the threat, making it real. Now, again, not falsely, not in some, a borrowed interest way, but in real terms, what is that threat? And why should every man care about it? That would be the first campaign I would put out there. And then I would, from there, start to layer on a communication plan and a policy plan or whatever else that dealt with it. But right now, you have a very narrow band of people who are in the know on what this represents. Other than it's like a kitchen table word that doesn't really bring with it much depth of meaning to a person. I don't think. That would be my hypothesis. And therefore, you need to work on building dissatisfaction, building out that D in order to create change.
Now,
that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we have tried that. Now, one of the aspects that maybe we're running up against, especially amongst people that are technologists or people that use technology a lot, and that's not necessarily technologists, but anybody that uses technology a lot, they get all these alerts and things like that, and that, we may be causing learned paralysis. I know that I'm being attacked. I know that people are trying to get at me, and I know that these big companies have been hacked. What chance do I have? And I'm just going to give up and, just roll the dice. There's nothing I can do, or I just don't feel like there's a way I can.
But, one of the things, Sid, that people, again, would be a hypothesis that I would seek to prove, is that I think that right now there is as much noise around cybersecurity damage. There's as much noise about messaging to people over what you can do to protect yourself at some price that I believe people have some mistrust over. You know, I get something from Morgan Stanley that says sign up for this and we'll protect you. I get something from somebody else, sign up for this and we'll protect you. But then I get some that say sign up for this for $9.99 a month and I'll protect you. And then I start to wonder, like, is that a real? Are they real? Right? So I think you've got a consumer who, you know, trust is a very, very precious thing now. We know brand loyalty has been declining since World War II. Trust is in a very turbulent orbit itself, and being able to help people feel comfortable about the solutions, I think, is as much of a challenge as it is making them aware of the threat. Because right now, you know, there are lots of people that are seeking to benefit on on the threat of cybersecurity, right? And I suppose they deserve to. Companies deserve to come up with solutions that really work. But I think people are again confused. You know, how much protection do I need? Do I need to sign up for Norton and this and that? You know, I think that again, you've got people. This is dizzying for the average American, for the average person, I think.